Welcome back to another episode of the Greek Current Cafe, and Happy New Year. In our last two episodes, we looked at the biggest winners and losers of 2024. This episode, we're diving into the new year and looking at what we're most excited about as 2025 unfolds. From crypto to energy and politics, we've got you covered. With me are Lexy Prodromos, an award-winning blockchain expert, passionate about educating both consumers and businesses on how to responsibly embrace emerging technology. Lexy, great to have you with us today, and Happy New Year.
Thanks, Thanos. Great to be here. Happy New Year.
Evan Karambelas, who leads investments and capital markets at LanzaJet, a sustainable fuels technology and manufacturing company, and has spent, I'd say, at least the past decade developing financing and investing in energy projects globally. So, Evan, good to have you with us.
Happy New Year, Thanos. Great to be here.
And of course, last but not least, HALC's Endy Zemenides. Endy, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Happy New Year.
So as you've all seen in our previous episodes, we're going to kick off with Shot Clock, our segment where you'll each have 24 seconds, just like the NBA shot clock, to highlight a few things you're excited about this year. And, I'll throw the ball to Lexy first. Lexy, the clock is on.
Sure, thanks, Thanos. So I would say for me, what I'm really excited about this year is crypto regulatory clarity in the Trump administration. We can dive into that. To see what happens to the first crypto AI millionaire, and that's a bot, not a person. How Greece and Cyprus can continue being leaders in exploring emerging technology. And I'm very excited for Wicked Part 2 in November.
Awesome. Evan?
By the way, she got a record. She got 4 shots in 24 seconds. I think we got 3. So let's get better than that, Evan. Let's go. Rapid shots.
I'll do my best. I'll keep them short. I think for me, kind of some broad themes I'm looking forward to seeing is generally trust. I think 2024 was a historic year for global politics across many countries, many elections. We've got some interesting elections coming up in 2025. Poland, Canada, Australia, Japan, Germany, and others. So I'll be interested to see how trust shifts and allied countries shift potentially in 2025. Tariffs and tax credits.
Yeah, you got one shot in, man. You got one shot
on that
in.
Later. And technology.
It was a very good shot, though.
If you want to fire off 2 real quick ones.
Go.
We can round you out with 3.
They won't count. But
I mentioned it was tariffs and tax credits, and then technology similar to Lexy, but maybe in a different light.
Okay, Endy, let's see how you do.
As my moniker says, I'm excited for people to figure out not to call me on November 30th for my namesake because I'm not an address. I'm excited for the return of The Rock. I don't know whether it's going to be in WrestleMania or SummerSlam. Spring training. I'm excited that there is no campaign anymore so we can have a real debate about ideas. And I'm excited about the innovation that young leaders like Lexy and Evan are going to lead.
All right.
I beat you, Lexy. I got 5.
Amazing, yeah.
Endy's the champion in this round of Shot Clock. But, let's dive in, Lexy. Give us the lay of the land here. Everyone's talking about how, Trump has promised to be the most pro-crypto president. Are we entering a golden era for crypto?
Yeah, I mean, this year certainly was a banner year for crypto, putting it lightly. I think that it probably is fair to say that Trump is the most pro-crypto president that we've had so far. I think he might be the first president that launched his own token, several of them. And so
he's also the first president that launched his own Bible, Lexy. Come on.
That's fair. Anything for a new branding opportunity, and this is maybe just another one of those. But I think what really kicked off where I thought he was actually kind of being serious this year about how pro-crypto he was when he was a keynote speaker at one of the biggest crypto conferences in the world. It was Bitcoin 2024 in Miami in the summer. So this was well before the election. And it was there that he was speaking directly to a lot of crypto advocates. I think it was the first time where we had, I think since Andrew Yang was another presidential candidate in 2016 that was very pro-crypto and had also spoken at conferences, but this was the first time to have sort of a real contender who had actually been a sitting president before, with the opportunity to make policy differences. And I think what's different about this year with Trump is that what he's tried to do is surround himself with more crypto and emerging tech and AI advocates than he has before.
So who should we watch, Lexy? Because he doesn't understand this. Who is it? Who is it in his circle that we should be paying attention to?
Yeah, I mean, probably, the more obvious pick is Elon. I think that he's obviously been fairly pro crypto for a while and just pro emerging tech in general. But in terms of who's actually going to be like formally running things, he's nominated Paul Atkins to be the SEC chairman to replace Gary Gensler, Gary Gensler had a much more punitive approach to regulating the crypto space. He's prompted a AI and crypto czar, David Sachs, and actually we've got a Greek American, Michael Kratsios, who will be working on that team, advising David Sachs at the White House Office of Science and Technology Policy. And then even within the CFTC, one of the chairman nominees is rumored to be Perianne Boring, who leads the Digital Chamber in DC, which they're the leading digital asset advocacy group in DC. And she's someone I know personally who's extremely, extremely smart, has been working in this space for over a decade, and I think would be a great pick to be leading, one of those pivotal organizations in the government.
Evan, how do you see crypto factoring into all the work that you're doing? I know you're financing energy projects. You've been following the space closely as well on the technology space. Is this, the sector that we need to watch in the coming years?
I think it is a very big sector to watch, and kind of borrowing off of what Lexy was saying. AI, data centers, crypto are growing 10 to 15% year over year. And by the time we hit 2030, we'll probably make up 5% or more of global energy demand. So it's interesting to see what some of the big tech players like Amazon and Google and others have been doing recently. There's nuclear production that'll be restarting here in the US to power those data center needs. Trump has also said that if we want to be a leader in AI, he's going to focus on that, but you need to do so by powering that demand. And companies like Amazon and Google and others are continuing to turn to renewables and clean energy to do that. These are distributed data centers that need distributed generation to be able to run. So I'm interested to see how that intersection between AI and energy play out, given the focus, at least in the news, on just drilling and gas under a Trump presidency.
Yeah, before we get to drilling and gas, Endy, I want to get your take here real quick. What are the big implications of Washington and potentially Wall Street's embrace here of cryptos? I mean, you're in Washington frequently.
Well, Wall Street has embraced it for a while, and crypto has reached unprecedented value this year, right? So it was, as Lexy said, a banner year. I'm just interested in what pro-crypto means. And frankly, there could be a civil war even within Trump's camp about this. You heard Steve Bannon last week, and it was about the H-1B1 visas, but saying there are two visions of the Republican Party. One is the MAGA, and the other is this techno-futurist. And that was a hit at Elon and Vivek. And there are things that you don't know how well they're going to gel. Evan just talked about, if energy is going to funding AI in that techno-imperialist future rather than creating jobs for the working class, because right now crypto and AI is not benefiting yet the working class. I think the most exciting part of crypto is another thing that Lexy's an expert in, is the blockchain technology that comes along with it that can be used for non-crypto things. Crypto right now seems to be a security, almost like gambling, because I don't know what it's secured by. There are some crypto currencies that are stable currencies. Bitcoin isn't. But there is one geopolitical ramification that I really have not heard anybody discuss. But is originally people wanted crypto to be an alternative, a decentralized currency.
Mm-hmm.
That's something that Trump does not want. He's threatened the BRICS nations with tariffs and sanctions if they develop their own currency. At what point, Evan probably knows the demand better given his energy background. We know that rogue countries or adversaries of the United States, like Iran and Russia, have long dreamed of a currency to do energy trading outside of the US, because all energy trading is done in dollars. So what happens when somebody actually starts using, because I think it was it El Salvador, Lexy, that adopted crypto as its currency?
Legal tender, yeah.
What happens when even a group of nations decide enough of the US, enough of dollar dominance, because that right now, the US's greatest global dominant trait is dollar dominance. And geopolitically, and people can, poo-poo this all they want. I've heard people say, no, crypto is just a security and not a currency. Crypto is a threat to dollar dominance.
Well, and I think you raise a good point, Endy. One other thing to maybe watch out for this year, and it was brought up when Trump gave his keynote at the Bitcoin conference earlier this year, but it's since been expanded upon by Republican Senator Cynthia Lummis, is the possibility of Bitcoin serving as an alternative to gold as a reserve for the Fed. Now, I mean, the mechanics of how this would happen is still a little bit, I think still needs to be fleshed out a bit more and obviously discussed. But the fact that we're even talking about this stuff now is just incredible and could really have bigger global implications than we can even realize right now.
Yeah, Lexy, since, Endy brought up AI earlier and, its benefits for the working class that aren't really there yet, I want to jump to your second point that you're excited about, and this first AI millionaire. Lay it out for us. What's going on here?
Yeah, so this was something that kind of happened earlier this year in line with the meme coin craze. So there was a coin, and I don't know if you guys have heard of it, but it's I'm not even joking. This is the actual name. It's called Fart Coin. But it is distinctive because it was the first coin or cryptocurrency that was created and promoted and fine-tuned entirely by an AI large language model. And so some people are calling it the first crypto AI millionaire because due to the recent price run that Fartcoin has been experiencing, the bot itself is holding more than $1 million in US dollars reserves of that token right now. So I think, this is kind of, I think what skeptics in the space point to as, maybe not the best use of our time in crypto, but I think it points to some interesting possibilities of where crypto and AI can meet.
Evan, you brought up
trust. And by the way, in Terminator, it was really badass machines that ruled us. Now we're going to be ruled by Fartcoin.
Evan, how do you see these developments, impacting that first issue you brought up, which was trust?
Yeah, I think kind of borrowing from both what Lexy and Endy said. Lexy, you mentioned earlier the Trump administration coming in and putting regulations around crypto. It's not going away, right? Cryptocurrency in any form is not going away. And the US cannot really take a step back and have other countries, as you mentioned, Endy, really step in and continue to grow that space without some oversight. And so I'll be interested to see how trust is implemented from a regulatory standpoint to make sure that bad actors are not utilizing cryptocurrencies to get around, the U.S. dollar in terms of, energy trade and others. So I think that will be something that I'm watching.
Terrorism, finance.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, Hamas and Hezbollah actually, which is in all kinds of organized crime, was a huge trader or miner in crypto.
So since we're still kind of on this economy space, Evan, I want to keep the ball with you here. And let's look at this, like the tariffs that you've been talking about, that you introduced. Where do you see this going? Why is this something that you've picked as your number one or number two issue here?
Yeah, for me, so Trump has come in and has said a bunch of things around what will happen for energy policy in the U.S. And trade policy generally. Tariffs on imports is one that he has mentioned. This was put in place during his previous presidency, and although it didn't kill the renewable energy space, the renewable space has continued to grow. It did slow it down. And I'll be interested to see what that looks like under a Trump presidency second time around, and whether or not he will actually get rid of the IRA and the various tax credits associated with the IRA, which, by the way, have done a couple of things, not just increasing production and support for renewables here in the U.S., but has onshored production of some of those some of the key equipment to come into the U.S. It's no secret China is a leader, a large leader in the renewable energy space in terms of producing equipment and various components. And getting rid of that will only secure China's spot in the market even more so. So I'll be interested to see how that plays out under a Trump presidency. The ability to get rid of some of the red tape is something that Trump has mentioned to allow for continuing building and permitting of infrastructure projects. So whether or not that will include renewables, I think is TBD. I think it will. Renewable production is actually the largest in red states, and so I think when push comes to shove, we'll continue to see renewable penetration growing under Trump, as it did in his previous presidency. But how that happens and whether or not the U.S. will utilize tariffs and tax credits to enable that, I think is to be seen.
I want to take a leap here.
Yeah, but wait, I want to stick with that. No leaping, because it's the first day of the new Congress, and since Evan talked about the previous presidency, he had an advantage in the previous presidency that may not be there. The previous presidency he took when the economy was on an upswing. I think the economy is in a little more precarious position. And the tariffs, what I get worried about when I hear him talk about tariffs, it's not like, let's get tariffs to make this, to recover these jobs, or they really believe in tariffs as a way. You hear him say that he likes President McKinley, because he's remembering the president that didn't have an income tax and was funding the federal government through tariffs. He said the other day, tariffs is the most beautiful word in the English language for him. And right now, watch the next couple of days what's going to happen with the speaker's race, because clearly fiscal conservatives, hardline fiscal conservatives, are not happy with the direction even of the economic plans of this president. If the tax cuts get extended the way they are, he is counting on 2.7 trillion worth of tariffs to plug some of that hole, because those tax cuts by themselves add 5 trillion to the national debt. And if we're going to use tariffs as a revenue raising tool and rely on them, Europe is going to respond in kind. Other countries are going to respond in kind. And, there, again, geopolitical implications and consumer implications here. But this debate, people are, I think it's ridiculous. And like Evan said, if those tax cuts get extended, the IRA is going to be eviscerated. The electric car credit will be gone, all of that, because they'll need to find places where they can save money to offset that 5 trillion in debt.
I know we're talking about all this here. Are you all seeing this debate evolve now that campaigning is done, to get to one of Endy's points here? Are we getting into the substance ahead of this inauguration? I don't know.
But only on the Republican side. We saw that with the bill. And it may be on purpose by the Dems. The Dems may be happy that the Republicans are so fighting within each other, between each other, that they'll sit back and figure benefit no matter what. I think there is a problem that there's not a natural Democratic voice, that nobody is looking who's the leader? Is it really Chuck Schumer? Is it Hakeem Jeffries? Is it and frankly, I think this is where governors are going to stand out, because if there's a debate at crypto, it's also going to happen at the state levels, right? States can regulate crypto. We know this in Illinois. Secretary of State Giannulli says, no, you're registering as with my securities department. So
I see Lexy nodding here. I don't know if you want to jump in, Lexy.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's reminding me, I think, of the fact that, I think that this is the first time where we've had this much discussion about crypto policy, like truly from the top down, because I think you're right. It has been much more of a kind of patchwork state by state landscape. And this is kind of in stark contrast to the EU and their approach, especially in the last couple of years, with one piece of legislation, MiCA, the Markets in Crypto Assets Regulation, which is starting to be the second part of it is more starting to be applied this year. And so I think ideally, if the Trump administration could take example from that, I think that could be, a really smart approach.
There's this saying, at least the European leaders say, that, the US innovates, China copies, and Europe regulates. Is that something that you're going to be hoping to see some change from, at least from Europe? I know this is a space that obviously Greece and Cyprus are key players in, whether it's energy, crypto, et cetera. I know we can do a little quick round before we jump into a few other themes.
Yeah, I can take the first stab here. I think that Greece and Cyprus are going to play an extremely important role. I think that the kind of concept of cryptocurrency and Bitcoin adoption in general have always been, moderately high there. I think there was a lot more early adoption in Greece and Cyprus in particular, as the first master's program digital currency was at the provided by the University of Nicosia, and there's been a lot of early thought leaders in the crypto space that have come from Greece and Cyprus. And I think also they've passed some new legislation as well, a newly adopted DLT law, which is allowing market participants to test the use of blockchain in the financial sector in a sandbox way. So regulators can learn from experience without, providing or basically by protecting consumers. So I think that whole kind of method will be really interesting to see if the US can kind of emulate that instead of just, barreling forward, innovating and not really protecting consumers.
Evan?
Yeah, and maybe just to go back to the previous comment around what Endy was saying, federal versus state level, I think that's going to be interesting to play out in the energy space as well. Whether or not the LCFS and other state level standards will continue. We've seen them grow across various states. So I think understanding and seeing where states are stepping in the event that the federal government steps back to support various renewable energy policies, I think will be an interesting space to be at. In terms of just the regulation, historically the U.S. Has been more incentive based, right? Europe is very much a mandate based, right? Carrot versus stick approach. I think that'll continue in Europe, but I think the U.S. is going to do itself a disservice if we do not step in and utilize what we have advantages in across the energy landscape. If we use just the space that I'm in, for instance, SAF, that can be created using a variety of different feedstocks, many of which the U.S. is well positioned to be a leader in. And if the EU and others are continuing to push sustainability and mandate it, the US can step in and continue to be a big player in that space globally, and I think should continue to take advantage of that. So whether it's incentivizing, whether it's mandating, I think we'll see, but certainly some support on various levels for the renewable energy space are going to need to be continued.
Endy, I don't know if you want to jump in on this, but I kind of want to take a leap and fill in and include a few of the topics you picked earlier and see how can we tie in the return of The Rock here.
When The Rock was at his height, America was really cruising. So, he's a people's champ. If he's a people, we'll see if The Rock comes back as a people's champ, which means then Steve Bannon wins, or the corporate champ, which means the crypto world will win. But I actually think I'd like to dive in more in Evan's points about energy, because as we finish a year, we saw that most American cities hit their hottest year ever. We're talking about Greece had a horrible year with climate emergencies. God bless the government, the Mitsotakis government, and actually Minister Kikilias for not having a lot more deaths. I think they were less than the handful. But maybe one of the things when I was talking about the innovation that young leaders like Lexy and Evan are working on, maybe one of the most exciting things is out there is Evan's company, LanzaJet, because transportation still makes up a huge amount of our fossil fuel use, and frankly, being in a house where planes, I'm in the O'Hare flight path. We know we're breeding all this stuff in cities. So listen, it's like a commercial to Evan, but really it is one of the most exciting things. And today there was a story about things we can put into the oceans to cool down the warming oceans, which is a horrible problem, especially with all our friends moving to Miami. You look at projections for Miami, you look at FEMA's not going to be, insurance companies are stopping, they're offering a flood insurance to Florida. There's all kinds of stuff. Evan, how are you going to cure this?
Yeah, it's a good question, and thanks for that, Endy. I think really what you're kind of alluding to here is energy has always been, but I think now more than ever is a national security issue, right? I think when we look at it just from the sustainable aviation fuel space at LanzaJet, at least, what is interesting is we're located right now and having conversations across 26 different countries. The reasons each of those countries or companies that we're talking to are interested in SAF vary. There are those in Europe that might be doing it because there is a mandate in place. There are others like in Australia, for instance, that have a lot of domestic feedstocks that they can utilize to get to various fuels and can limit their need of imports. And so it's more of a national security reason in those type of countries. So utilizing a vast variety of feedstocks that are located in country is important, whether it's ethanol from energy crops or from waste, whether that's municipal solid waste or off gases. There is a tremendous amount of ability and flexibility within some of these sustainable fuel technologies, including the technology we have at LanzaJet.
How close are we to hydrogen fuel? How close are we to hydrogen fuel?
For hydrogen to be used to fuel what?
I mean, everybody keeps talking. I mean, if you remember, even with the East Med pipeline, people are like, "Oh, it could carry hydrogen," and we're seeing, we've seen even some power plants in Ohio like being mostly natural gas, but hydrogen, and really, everybody keeps talking about hydrogen as if it's going to be Tony Stark's arc reactor. Is that realistic, or is that a pipe dream? Or?
I think
unintended pipe dream, but
right. A lot of talk around hydrogen was happening even into 2024, and 2024 was supposed to be sort of this great year for hydrogen. The difficulty with hydrogen across all of the various forms, green, gray, there's various colors in terms of where that hydrogen is coming from, really is renewable energy to get to green hydrogen. In terms of aviation, just using, going back to LanzaJet, for instance, if you talk to any of the airplane manufacturers, engine manufacturers, hydrogen is something that they are looking at probably from 2050 on. So we need drop-in solutions, drop-in fuels like SAF to be able to get the
2050 on?
For aviation. Hydrogen is being used today. Hydrogen is used across a variety of manufacturing and processes today. So it's there, but in terms of the what I'll call hype around hydrogen, I think we're going to need to wait and see a little bit longer before that really takes shape.
The good news is that technology is always evolving. So 2050 maybe sooner than maybe sooner than that.
Well, look, 2030. Sorry, just to step in quickly. 2030 is around the corner, right? I remember, when we hit 2020, and if we want to talk about these renewable sustainability targets, the world is still very far behind. And I think when we do set some of these targets in what seems to be decades away, that does come quickly. So you're right about that, Thanos.
Yeah, we've got a few more minutes, so I kind of want to wrap up with two themes that we didn't touch on yet, and I'll pass the ball to Lexy and her wicked comment when we kicked off, and we'll hit Endy afterwards with spring training, and I think we'll wrap up there.
Yeah, I'm I have a background as a singer, and so I was very skeptical when the Wicked Part 1 came out, since I've seen some of my favorite musicals sort of be given the movie treatment, not quite to my maybe too high standards, but Wicked Part 1 really blew me out of the park. And so I'm very, very excited, which I haven't been for a long time, for a sequel later this year. So
yeah, my niece and nephew have been watching Wicked too, and they're singing all the songs on so it's definitely on a lot of people's radars. Endy, spring training, what are we looking out for?
Now, listen, I'm a Cubs fan, right? So hope springs eternal. And 2024 was one of the worst years in Chicago sports ever, compared to last week where I said 2024 was such a great year for Greek sports, and for all of us who are Olympiacos fans, especially, right? It's a big year for movies too. There's the reboot of Superman, which had this corny trailer with Crypto the Super Dog, but more interestingly, I don't know if it's going to be a national mood shift. A lot of national mood shifts you see in pop culture, and it seems like the people who are rebooting Superman decided to go back to the comic, the like real good versus evil versus this edgy superhero movie type thing, which we've seen in the new Batman series, the Penguin. Whoever hasn't seen the Penguin on HBO, it's like Sopranos meets DC. But Wicked 2 and Superman, watch that.
All right. And I'll throw in one to watch as well for this year. Last year was a big year for the Greek national soccer team as well. Big win in Wembley in the UK, an amazing Nations League run. So World Cup qualifying starts this year. Hopefully we'll see Greece make it through and play in the World Cup finals next year, which will be in the US. So hopefully not a repeat of 94, but
well, there's no Denny's Den anymore here in Chicago, so the Greek team can't be partying until 2 a.m. before the game.
On that note, thank you all for tuning in. Happy New Year, and we'll be with you next week.